What's up, everybody? Welcome to Collie Greens and Nerdy Things. Of course, your one stop shop for all things nerdy. I am King.
And I'm JC3. Hey, yo, King, what we reviewing today, man?
So, today we're going to be talking about Captain America A Brave New World, the new Captain America series, the fourth in its series, and the first Captain America movie with Anthony Mackie. So, let's today jump into our first thoughts on what we think, and then we'll kind of just take it as we go. So, Jay, what you think of the movie?
King, I have to say I did like the movie. I didn't love it, but I did like it for what it was and what it gave us. I thought we get had great performances from Anthony Mackie as our new Captain America. You had Danny Ramirez playing the new Falcon. I really liked his part in the role. Carl Lumley as Isaiah Bradley. His performance was very strong in the movie, along with a couple other surprises. And of course, we can't forget Harrison Ford, playing the new Thunderbolt Ross, and also hulking up for the first time. I did enjoy it. Good action, decent story. A couple things that I had issues with, but overall, like I said, I did like it. What you think?
Awesome. So I have a little bit of a different take, I guess, today. I absolutely love the movie. I'm one of those people who loved the symbolism of the movie, loved the story that they were telling, loved to see Anthony Mackie as, the new Cap and proving to, I guess, the audience why he deserves to be Cap and why Cap is who Cap is. So for me, I definitely have some, as we all do, have a couple little nitpicks here and there about the movie. But for me, I think I'm more on the list of loving it. Um, I think, just kind of jumping into some of the movie, I love the symbolism and I love that this movie seems to kind of be a spiritual successor to a couple former properties, one being The Winter Soldier, then the other one really being the first Edward Norton Hulk story. All of this kind of picks up where some of those things left off, as well as Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What did you think about that?
I absolutely agree with you. Actually, that's one of the things about the movie that I really did like. It was kind of a love hate thing that I had. Not really hate, but like some issues that I had just because the the Winter Soldier
Mhm.
is actually one of my like favorite MCU movies. Probably my favorite standalone MCU movie aside from the Avengers stuff. Um, and they just thinking, like you said, the Incredible Hulk, like that movie came out I want to say like 17 like years ago, like 2008, around the same time as Iron Man. So it's again, it's a reward for like the MCU fans that have been looking at these movies from that long ago, and we're getting some payoff for some things that honestly I didn't even think we were going to get a payoff for all the way back. But it's nice to dive deep into some of the old characters and old faces that we haven't seen in a long time.
I agree. I think that's kind of one of the best parts of the movie is it does feel like we're kind of picking up some of the stories where we left off. And of course, like this culminates to quite a few films, even having a slight nods and stuff to the Eternals based on where they're located in the story. But I really enjoyed the idea that uh, Cap is trying to solidify himself in himself as being worthy or as worthy as Steve Rogers was to have the mantle of Captain America. And I thought it was kind of interesting where we pick up the story where Thunderbolt Ross is now getting ready to make his acceptance speech as the president. The last time we saw a president was in Secret Invasion, where he was basically just saying all the aliens are not welcome here. You know what I mean? And eventually they had an election and Thunderbolt won. And now he's going out to be the newly elected president and trying to change the way that people look at him from his past of being the Hulk Hunter, as they called him.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that as well. He Harrison Ford, I think he was a good successor for William Hurt's Thunderbolt Ross.
Hell yeah.
I even like how they covered why he doesn't necessarily have like the mustache anymore, like it is in the comics.
I
But
love that. I love
Harrison,
that little cheeky line that he gave him.
right, right, like hey, lose the mustache or lose the election, bro. Like
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was
hey,
fantastic.
it works. Uh, Honestly, like Harrison Ford's performance, like he definitely brought out his, his Indiana Jones, Han Solo energy, to the role. But we kind of, expect that, from him at this point. So I really did like that and appreciate it. I also like the depth of his story, him trying to show not just the public, but his daughter that that he's changed for the better, and just seeing his struggle to maintain not only maintain his presidency, but also hold in a bit of anger inside that was slowly building up as the movie went on. And I'm sure we'll touch on why that was going on later on in the conversation.
Absolutely. I think that was one of the biggest things about the movie. Harrison Ford really, really came through on the performance of him also being conflicted with being the old version of himself and how can he move forward to being the new version. He had been estranged to his daughter for so long. He kind of wants to show her that he could be the better man that she would hope him to be. And that kind of puts us, kind of where we start in the movie. We end up picking up with Anthony Mackie's character, of course, Sam Wilson, and Joaquin Torres as they're getting ready for a flight mission with the Air Force, which is kind of fun to see them kind of wing out and fly around. Um, in that moment, Joaquin was kind of being the man in the chair, and they had that base that they dropped down in. The kind of the first mission of the movie. What do you think about that whole sequence?
I liked it. And as soon as I saw it, it gave me Winter Soldier vibes. Just from the beginning of that movie when Steve Rogers was shooting down into that the one ship, to take out that crew to get some secret intel for Shield at that time. It gave me a feel of that, but again from a different take because one thing that I really do like about Sam Wilson's Captain America is they highlight the differences between him and Steve. Like this man right here, he don't got the super soldier serum. He don't got the super soldier. You know what I mean? He's a full on human with a suit taking on these threats, and right off the bat, you see how different he is, but also how skilled and how much heart he has at the same time.
Absolutely. I think the biggest glaring thing for the movie was trying to show that Sam Wilson is still as effective as Steve Rogers in a different way. So not only is he now becoming a way more prodigious fighter, but he's got the suit and the shield that was upgraded by Wakanda and has the Wakanda tech in it. And the way that they chose to do his fighting style is very much like he's still a human and he has to rely on using the wings and his armors and things as defense where Steve Rogers is a super soldier so he could take a punch like nobody's business. So I love the way that they kind of showed us, hey, this is what um he can do even though he's just a human. So
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that part. I want to skip ahead to him going to talk to Isaiah Bradley in the gym, and just mention a couple funny things. Like one, I thought Isaiah Bradley is a 100% great, one of my favorite characters in the series, or in Marvel in general. For those who don't know, Isaiah Bradley was one of the first people to get a super soldier serum. And it was done in the 1950s. So they did this secretly because they were giving a lot of African Americans this super soldier serum and seeing what was happening. He was the only one to survive those tests, but the government wanted to cover it up so nobody knew. So they imprisoned him for years. And we see him getting out in Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, and now we see him kind of training Cap, being his confidant, and he gets to meet the new Falcon, and they're kind of back and forth at the gym was fantastic for me.
I love the comedic relief, but between both of them, like how Joaquin was, making old man jokes, towards the old Cap. Like that was fun.
I love that, and then also it just shows that like Isaiah Bradley is 100% a super soldier. He was throwing around the heavy bags, and the way that they were doing their training was incredible. And a little Easter egg that me and Jay were talking about before we started streaming was in the background of the gym, there's a couple pictures hanging, and it is Jackie Robinson and Jack Johnson, two incredible black sports, baseball and boxing, just influential people in the community. So I thought it was really cool that they added those into the boxing gym and kind of uh, gave some reverence to the people that Isaiah would think were his heroes.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. It like little Easter eggs like that show that there are people in Marvel that do like to pay attention to representation. Which is I think about like a good part of what this movie is also about. Representing a new idea, representing and embracing a new Captain America. It may not be the Captain America you're used to, but this one can be just as good, if not better.
Agreed, agreed. The movie I think is big on what expectations are, and living up to those things, and having the confidence within yourself to become those things, and not relying on what society or the people are telling you you should be. And that is the Cap that we're getting, someone who is at their heart of hearts, truth of truth, a good man to the core. So I really enjoyed that. We did get a cool scene where not Falcon, but Cap gets to go to the White House and talk to Thaddeus for the first time, and he kind of tells him, It's weird seeing you here, and it's weird being here." And then they kind of talk in, I think it was the Oval Office or another room in the White House, and Thunderbolt says, "Hey, man, I want you to restart the Avengers." And there's some trepidation there, but I don't think Sam was expecting him to even talk about the Avengers.
Well, considering the last time they, really saw each other, had anything to do with each other, Ross threw him in the raft, because of the Sokovia Accords. So yeah, there's going to be a little tension there. And like you said, you could definitely feel that tension as they were talking to each other. It was kind of uneasy, but you could tell they were kind of still trying to be friendly. When he mentioned getting the Avengers back together, the first thing that went through my mind was, finally, finally, we are talking about this. It's been since 2019 since we've had an Avengers movie. And the next one will be coming out next year with Avengers Doomsday. But finally, it feels like we are making really like good steps forward to actually putting a new team together. So that actually that really excited me. But boy, did that agreement that ended very quickly, didn't it?
It ended quite quickly, man. So just moving forward in the story a little bit, after the gym sequence, Sam invites Isaiah to go to the White House. They're gonna have a what did they call it? I wrote this down in my notes here. They were gonna have a summit for the celestial head in the middle of the ocean, the middle of the Indian Ocean. We're finally going to somewhat talk about the conclusion of the Eternals and this giant head Tiamat that is just popping out of the middle of the ocean. So they get in the limo, they get their drinks, they're excited, they're taking pictures, they head over to the White House, and they kind of noticed that, Isaiah was like, something, my phone's on the fritz, and he notices something's kind of going on. They go into this summit, and the summit is an agreement between the United States, Paris, and Japan on what to do with Tiamat's body and the newly formed and first time in the MCU, adamantium has finally been introduced. Of course, adamantium is the strongest metal in Marvel, even stronger than vibranium. So, of course, countries are going to be fighting over who gets the rights to uh, distribute or keep the vibranium. And it seems that the United States, Paris, and Japan had made an agreement to get together and drill or ore this product and then distribute it throughout the entire world. But in the middle of this summit, something interesting happens. And Jay, tell them what happens.
Well, our good friend Isaiah Bradley um, decides to, get up from his chair randomly and try to assassinate the president, Harrison Ford. That turns into a big debacle, as you can imagine. He doesn't succeed in killing Harrison Ford, because we still got a Red Hulk to see. And we have a nice little chase sequence that ensues between Isaiah Bradley and the rest of the government, including Captain America. Again, giving us some Winter Soldier vibes, like when Steve Rogers was chasing Winter Soldier after he tried to kill Nick Fury.
Absolutely.
Uh, and it was honestly that whole scene, man. Like it was action, it was drama, but at the end it was heartbreaking, just because you could tell that Isaiah really had no idea what he had just tried to do, and the idea that he had to get down on his knees and surrender himself to the government that had forgotten about him and let him down, betrayed him. It was a heartbreaking thing to see.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. It was legitimately kind of heartbreaking and tearful moment, because he was like, I don't want to get locked up again. He had been locked up for so long and forgotten, as you mentioned, that the last thing he wants to do is go behind bars again. And he had this very bewildered look that he really did not know what he did or what was happening. So it was kind of sad, and as he surrenders himself, he's wearing this really nice suit, and it was his only suit that he got married in, with his late wife who passed away. And the only thing that he was telling them was to, please don't mess up his suit, please don't mess up his suit, as he was, giving himself up. So that part was definitely very very hard disheartening and kind of sad to see. But before we get too sad, there is a dope part about that scene. Isaiah Bradley is single-handedly uh, whooping everyone's butt who comes across him as he's running out of the White House. There was not one person who could remotely stop him in that moment, and I love to see it.
You did, but since you mentioned that, it did remind me of when Sam was chasing him, and I think he jumped from the stairs, or he jumped through the window, and and Sam saw him all the way down on the ground, still running. And but then you get that again. It's a reminder, like Sam doesn't that he's not like super soldier, and so he sees that, and he's like, "Damn!" And he has to just walk down the steps,
Oh,
run
dude,
down steps.
it was great. They played that for laughs because he saw him and he did go like, "Damn, like I can't do that," and
Right.
he's got to run down those stairs, which is hilarious. Which is hilarious, by the way. But as you mentioned earlier, uh, at this point now, Thunderbolt and Sam are now at an impasse. Sam rushes back in to talk to the president, who's held up in his bunker, and they don't really want to let him in, but he pushes his way anyway. And he really confronts Thaddeus Ross about what happened, and not just going after Isaiah Bradley, getting to down to what really happened. And essentially the president pushes him away. And in a heartbreaking moment, that at the moment I won't get too much into the politics of, but it definitely perked my ear when he said this to him. He looks him dead in the face and says, "You're no Steve Rogers." And I do want to say that this is one of the things that we are seeing in the real world. I won't go too deep on that right now, but that is something we are seeing with this version of Cap. And it was interesting that you would hear that from Thunderbolt Ross in that moment.
Absolutely, because honestly, in the real world, I'm sure that there are some people who are also thinking that, believe it. So like, like even before he said that, he said like you shouldn't even be a part of these conversations, Sam. Like, like you shouldn't even be in here. Like, what do you mean? And and I can say, as a black man, with there are times where, when you hear that and it's an ignorance thing that you're hearing, and it's hurtful, just because it's like, yeah, I'm not this guy, but I have the shield, and I have this shield for a reason. I'm not him, but that's exactly why I have this, because I'm not like him. I'm my own version. So yeah.
I think that's very well said, man. That's exactly what I was feeling from it is, there is that bit of ignorance. And as a black man, um, I've heard that in my life a decent amount of times where essentially you have reached the highest pinnacle you have, but at some points you're still not welcome in some rooms or not seen as an equal to. And that's what Sam was really dealing with in that moment, which kind of threw him off because again they had had a really good conversation 8 or so hours if not a day before. um, but moving forward in the story, in that moment we get to meet Thunderbolt's head of security, Ruth Basteroth, who we find out is an ex Black Widow. And the girl is badass. She got these moves. They give her her own hallway scene of her running up the wall, kicking all this butt of like 5 or 6 grown men twice her size. It was fantastic to see her in action.
It was nice seeing her in action. She was a tiny little thing, bruh.
Itty bitty. She was itty bitty.
Tiny little thing over all these big ass dudes.
And she
Definitely gave
was
Black Widow
whooping them.
problems.
She was whooping
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Before we get too far in the story, I want to mention something that happened a little earlier when Sam in the beginning of the movie is breaking up this fight. He's really fighting um, a group the Serpent. I forgot what they're calling themselves. In the comics, they were called the Serpent Society.
Serpent
Um,
Society. Called, yeah, Serpent Society.
and he was chasing them because they had a bit of the vibranium, or excuse me, they had a bit of the adamantium, and there was the Japanese. They ended up getting it back, but what we got out of that was Giancarlo Esposito as the leader of the Serpent Society as Sidewinder. And y'all, I mean, when Giancarlo is in the movie, he's in the movie. And the next scene, Sam leaves talking to the president and doing some other stuff. And later on, he's riding around in his truck. And boom, there comes Giancarlo Esposito with an AK-47, straight destroying that man's truck. It was such an epic scene between those two.
It was very scary.
It was very scary, man. It was they were going back and forth. I mean, what a black ops mercenary leader Giancarlo was. I mean, they were going back and forth and exchanging blows for blow. I mean, he was shooting cops on the streets. But it was another good example of who Sam is and why Sam is the new Cap. Sam didn't have his uniform, he didn't have his stuff, he had nothing but himself and his skin. And he was able to handle that situation intelligently and almost kind of with some ease, which also shows that he doesn't necessarily need a super soldier serum to get the job done.
Oh no, like it. What I love about that whole scene is it showed you how vulnerable he is. Like even towards an old war vet like Sidewinder. Like he was having some trouble at first, but I mean mainly just trying not to get shot. by this guy, and like the fight was pretty even. I did appreciate it, but like even Sidewinder, I even mentioned he was like, yeah, you're nothing without your suit. You know what I mean? Like, or you're more vulnerable without your suit. And they really pressed on that by how Captain America got stabbed, a couple times there. But another thing that I love is how that fight ended. Like when he was able to get the drop on Sidewinder and kick him into the front of that windshield, man. Like I'm telling y'all, if y'all saw me and my boy over here in the theater, as soon as that happened, we couldn't help but start giggling a bit because our boy Giancarlo Esposito, he's just like,
I mean, he kicked the hell
oh,
out of him.
they did.
He didn't have a chance after that. He didn't have a chance. He kicked the hell out of him, and he still had 2 knives in him. You know what I mean? That boy got that work. You know what I mean? And so
He
throughout
did.
the movie, one thing that is going on is that it seems like somebody is controlling various people with some kind of mind control. They're starting to get closer and closer, but it can affect anybody around them. And what they're finding out is there is one person behind the scenes who is doing all of this stuff, and we're just gonna rip the band-aid off. We get introduced to Samuel Stearns, the leader. And then during the beginnings of the movie, you get introduced to him in the shadows with these green eyes, and later on, you get introduced to him in his full form. And for me, as much as I love Samuel Cerns. I think personally they kind of missed the mark on the way he looks. The acting and his character was fantastic, but for me, they missed the mark on having the big old head, and I just wanted it to be a little more comic accurate. What'd you think?
Well, first thing that went through my head was it's no Modoc,
I give you that. It's no Modoc.
no Modoc, so we're good there. Um, as far as the look of the character, I honestly didn't mind it so much. It didn't really bother me. Um, I prefer practical effects more, over CG anyway. So when it came to that, I feel like they did a decent job. Plus, I haven't seen any recent pics of what the leader looks like in the comics. But I mean, I was okay with it. If anything, it gave me low-key like Invader Zim vibes. Like what if Invader Zim got hit in the head with a pan or something like that, you know what I mean? And his head was all like bubbly. Kind of got Invader Zim vibes. Great
You
show,
know,
by the way.
you know what it took me out? I love Invader Zim, by the way. Love that show. What took me out was he looked like one of the aliens from Mars Attacks. Whenever they used to do, he looked like that alien. So that kind of took me out for 2 seconds, but overall, I enjoyed it.
Oh damn.
The
My chest.
leader has one hell of a grudge for Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, and in the movie, we find out the leader has been locked up for a very long time as well, and was blamed for the Hulk and Abomination fight in Harlem. And Thaddeus has been using him to create weapons, be his own personal think tank, and help him deal with his own medical issues. I'll let you tell a little bit more about what happened there.
Well, it's funny to me how Thunderbolt Ross, his arc is trying to prove that he is, a different man, a better man, when essentially a lot of the things that happen in this movie are all his fault.
All
Like
of them.
this, right? This is all because of him. After they capture the leader from the Incredible Hulk movie in 2008, we find out that Thunderbolt Ross decides to dose him with more gamma in his head to make him more powerful, more stronger, to where he's able to see pretty much like every probability that there is in any type of situation. He's pretty much like one of the smartest like mutations alive, and he uses the leader's abilities to get more power, essentially, to where that eventually gets him the presidency. And we also find out that based off of Thunderbolt Ross's heart condition that we found out in Captain America Civil War, that he was cured from that because of the pills, the medication that the leader was giving him. But we also found out more in the fact that there were gamma in those pills that were affecting Harrison Ford, aka Thunderbolt Ross, in a very angry way.
Yeah, I love the fact that I think me and you, when we were sitting next to each other, we looked at each other and we're kind of like, "Oh, it's in the pills. It's in the
Called
pills."
it,
We
called
we
it, bro.
we kind of called it and knew that he was essentially slowly poisoning him with gamma. That at some point it was going to build up in his system, uh, and then essentially turn him into a Hulk. And with Thunderbolt Ross, one of the things with his character and the thing that he's trying to get over is he's an angry man. There's a lot of things that make him angry, and he's lived most of his life with a lot of anger. And he's been trying to go more the peaceful route. And as the anger takes over, so does the beast. So
And
does
the
the
red eyes,
beast.
and those red
And
eyes.
those red
Mhm.
eyes, there's a scene when things are getting real tough. They're in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Disagreements with Japan have broke down. There's fighter jets flying around Tiamat, and we're pretty much getting into a full out uh, small scale war with Japan around Tiamat, which is really cool, by the way, because the way that those dudes are flying around in their regular, superhero flight suits with planes. It wasn't aliens, it wasn't anything, it was regular war. But in the middle of that and things breaking down, Thunderbolt is starting to get increasingly mad. And you can start to see the beginnings of what will be his later transformation. And I thought that was pretty dope. That scene, he definitely looked like it looked like he was having a panic attack. Like he was stressed out and was having a severe panic attack, and that starts happening.
Yeah, like if anything, before he even gets to his transformation, I think I said earlier, like I really enjoyed when he was trying not to be the Hulk, like when he was trying to hold back, but the leader and situations around him were egging him on to just let it out, just like you said, like just unleash the beast. But I like that it was a good steady build up to where when it finally did happen, you were like, oh yeah, like all bets are off now. But also him going off was a big part of the leader's plan, and even when he wouldn't, like you could see how much that was frustrating the leader.
Right. Right. And one of the things that I really liked in that scene was on the outside as they're having this dogfight in the air. Um, Sam and Joaquin are having one hell of a time trying to not only stop the Japanese fighters from attacking American ships, but now two pilots have now succumbed to the leader's uh, mind
Mind
thing,
control.
mind control, thank
Hmm.
you, and are now also attacking the American ships and the Japanese ships, making just chaos in the air. And those dogfight scenes were amazing. And again, it shows what you were mentioning earlier, that Sam Wilson has to take a different approach at being Cap by, still having a bit of his Falcon abilities of, flying around, having these wings, now being able to go into Mach 1 or 2 or 3, and then having to use these vibranium wings and shield in a way that Steve Rogers would have never been able to do.
Right, and it also showed his leadership capabilities with our new Falcon, and how he was able to direct him, manage him, try to trust him with certain situations, even though our new Falcon was kind of a hothead, at the end. But I'll let you tell them what ended up happening to our boy that got us a little worried.
Yeah, I love they did this twice in the movie. Um, when every time Sam's giving him advice and telling him something, he says, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know. Don't die." And they kind of played that for laughs a couple parts. But as they're flying, uh, he Falcon goes to disable one of the last missiles and the last one, and he gets caught in the middle of an explosion and starts to plummet into the Indian Ocean. And does plummet to the Indian Ocean and is unconscious at the time, burnt, unconscious, internal bleeding, probably broken ribs. And Sam wants to go for him, but at the moment, he's got to stop another one of these jet fighters from uh, either blowing up or kind of kamikazing into one of the U.S. military ship and the one that the president is now on. So Sam has to do the right thing while the military and the Navy go to get Falcon out of the water.
Yeah, it was rough. You you felt the weight of of his partner now being hurt, just because he's never really been faced with something like that, with somebody that is on his team, getting put down like he did. And then we get to the hospital scene where, uh, again, I got some Winter Soldier vibes, based off that, just because he's watching this boy get operated on, just like Black Widow and Steve Rogers were watching Samuel Jackson get operated on in Winter Soldier.
Exactly.
But while he's witnessing this, we get a little cameo. That I know a lot of people are going like, "Hey, who we get, King?"
Oh man, one of my favorite things in that moment was the door opens, you hear footsteps, and it goes, it's a private room, get out. I don't want to talk to nobody. And then you hear the voice, and it's Sebastian Stan, a Bucky, and I am screaming in the movie theaters because now we get the Winter Soldier on screen. And one thing I want to point out that's really cool that you guys might notice as the audience, the Winter Soldier is now running for Congress. A man who was on the U.S. terrorist list and locked up in the was going to be locked up in the RAF is now running for Congress, and I think that is a pretty cool change. So we know the next movie coming up is the Thunderbolts, and we're probably going to be seeing Bucky sitting in front of some committees. Maybe he's getting confirmed into Congress, or I'm curious to see what happens. What'd you think of that scene, man?
Oh, I that was one of the scenes that I actually really liked. Like it, I mean, hey, only in Marvel, only in Marvel, where you have a former terrorist, or somebody that was labeled a terrorist. Now he's about to go and be a congressman. You can't get this stuff anywhere else. But I did really enjoy that scene. It kind of brought me back to the TV show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just seeing their
Absolutely.
dynamic together. You know what I mean? Like how good, like the little bro ship, that they got. But also it was touching just because Bucky was there to remind Sam again, for why he has the shield, why Steve was the one to give it to him. Some could look at that as a bit of rehash if you've already seen the show, but I feel like it was something that was needed to get Sam out of the low mindset that he was in at that time, just because he had felt like he had let his wingman down, and he's never really felt it like that before. So it was good to have his boy there to kind of put him back on track uh, for why he doesn't need the serum. I also love that they touched on him not having the serum. Like a part of me, a big part of me, did want him to get the serum, but I appreciate them having that scene for the movie explaining why he doesn't take the serum. And I mean, in actuality, it's kind of like accurate. From what I know, he never took the serum in the comics, so that's fine too.
You're correct.
But yeah, but giving a reason for that made sense and that was heartfelt. I can appreciate that moment.
Yeah, man. Bucky says to him something I think that is important for the whole movie, and I think the theme of the movie is he said, people believe in Steve, but people aspire to be you. And I think the biggest thing that he was saying in that moment was people believed in Steve. Steve was almost untangible. He was a superhero. He had powers. He wasn't a human. Sam is someone that we can all aspire to. He's a human just like us. He's an everyday guy just like us. He's the kind of guy that we can be if we work hard enough and care hard enough. So I love that moment. But we're going to kind of jump a little forward and we're going to get to the big crux of the movie. And they're on the White House lawn, and some of the information about the leader has now started to come out, and he started to leak this information and conversations that him and Thaddeus have had, and letting the public know at this White House briefing over some speakers and a video that's playing to the public that he has been locked up the whole time, and Thunderbolt promised him freedom, and everything that essentially is going on and happening right now was due to him, and it's all Thaddeus's fault.
Oh, poor Thaddeus. And you called it though. You called it like because we were watching the movie, and the press conference was going to happen. We were just like, yeah, they're going to start asking him questions, and that's when he's going to blow up, and it's going to become too much. But it wasn't necessarily the questions that were getting to him at first. They were getting to him, but he was still managing his anger. But when that recording came out, that's when all bets were off. And we finally got the debut after so many years of Alas, the Red Hulk.
I mean, chef's kiss. The CGI of the Red Hulk was on point. Um, Harrison Ford's portrayal of basically turning into was really good. I mean, the way that it looks, he's irradiating with anger and heat. Of course, the Red Hulk, unlike regular Hulk or Green Hulk, Bruce Banner Hulk, every time the Red Hulk gets madder and madder, he gets hotter and hotter. He can give off energy but also absorb energy at the same time. So you could see things burning off of him and irradiating kind of in his presence. He's angry. He is full out angry. Once the video started playing and the Secret Service were trying to get him out of there, and they said, "I'm not letting you stay to explain anything. You got to go." He really was ticked off by the fact that anybody would hold him back from doing what he wanted to do. And that
Yeah,
man hulks out and
yeah.
destroys everything.
Even a part of the White House like that. Like no, that was like no, that was nuts. The whole fight scene between him and Captain America was amazing. I like absolutely loved it from Sam trying to fly away and get him away from the crowd and how far the Hulk was jumping to keep up with him. Oh, it gave me like Avengers vibes from when we first from when the Hulk comes in to help with the New York attack and he's just jumping over like just mashing everybody. It gave me feels like that again. It reminded us of just how powerful a Hulk can be.
And it reminds us of the Hulk when he was like more of a savage. You know, we have Smart Hulk at
Yeah,
this moment. This was an unbridled, angry Hulk that was when they started shooting at it. And I saw someone write this on Twitter. When is the US military and Marvel going to realize you can't shoot a Hulk? You just can't do it. And everyone stood there trying to shoot him as bullets are just essentially melting on him and affecting him in no way whatsoever. He is destroying the White House. I mean,
but
the
yeah,
whole East Wing is gone. The East Wing is gone. When did that jump that Jay was just talking about, he destroyed the whole back awning of the White House. And now they're taking it to the streets and they are destroying everything in its midst.
yeah, you would think that after like 17 years of the MCU being a thing, and every and these humans, knowing that there's extraterrestrial things, we got a celestial in the sky. We had a purple dude come down that snapped half the planet. You would think that, you would be more prepared and not just have regular bullets to take care of, certain threats like this. I mean, there's Tony Stark. There's Stark Industries, bro. Like there's Pym Tech.
Hammer.
Like Hammer. You're the White House. Do something.
Yeah,
Do
dude,
something
they have so
else.
many intelligent agencies out there, and you're right. After everyone got snapped, and all the things that have happened from Loki to Ultron to Thanos and all the things, you would figure that the world's governments, especially the United States government, where most of this is happening in Marvel, would have come up with some ways to strengthen buildings, make sure that the president would be safe in case of superpowered threats, make it a little bit Hulk proof, because clearly we've seen chambers in places where Hulk can be held without damaging things. So it's possible. And then you would also figure that, like, yeah, man, you can't
We
shoot a Hulk with any conventional means. It doesn't matter if it's a jet or a helicopter, it doesn't work.
No, like, but the thing is, we now that I think about it, we've had weapons that can at least try to hold down the Hulk more. I mean, in the Incredible Hulk movie that we've had, they had weapons in there that tried to contain him when he was running rampant at
Well,
first. They could have done maybe a little callback to that.
and look at the container that they had on the Shield had on the helicarrier that they locked up Loki in, and they told him, like, remember, it was meant to carry the Hulk. And later on, towards the end of the movie, you're gonna see them in the raft where he was locked up, which that character makes reference that it should be good enough to hold him. But let's move a little bit forward. You said this to me while we're sitting there. There's a moment when all the disaster is, kind of coming to its head. Uh, Sam's got his wings ripped off, and he's essentially at the mercy of the Red Hulk. And this is also taking place in front of these beautiful cherry blossoms that are actually in Washington, that Japan donated to us in, I wrote this down, 1912. So those are real cherry blossoms. Of course, not really destroyed, but right outside of Washington, D.C., around some of the monuments, there are those. And they're at that moment, and Sam looks at him and says, dude, you can knock my head off right now if you wanted to. But you had mentioned this was uh, our Natasha Romanoff. Uh, the sun's getting real low, buddy. It was Sam's moment to show that he's going to win this not with using his force, but using his heart and his mind and his ability to talk to the heart of people.
Hmm. Yeah, and I did like how they brought it back to that. Honestly, I felt like that's how they were gonna calm him down, was just have Sam talk him down. Because I mean, that's one of the things that I enjoy about this storytelling and this movie in general and this character, is just because he was a counselor. That's what he was after he left the war. He had already had his traumatic experiences, and he wanted to use that pain that he experienced to help others not feel that. So at his core, what he does is talk to people, and he showed that that's his main superpower. And using that on Thunderbolt Ross and getting him to calm down at the end of everything. I mean, mind you, everything being suit getting damn near messed up, wing getting broken, skull almost getting crushed. But he was able to talk him down after all that, and that was a very beautiful moment, very beautiful scene.
Yeah, and coming towards the end of the movie here, something that I just kind of hinted towards later on. Thaddeus Ross decides to step down as the president, and submit himself to be held in the raft, where superpowered individuals go to be imprisoned. The raft is a prison that Thunderbolt created himself to carry people like the Hulk, and now and lock up people during the Sokovia Accords, where Sam was
Ain't that
locked up.
right? Mm,
And now that is flipped on its head. Now Thunderbolt is in the cell and Sam is on the outside. And Sam goes ahead and tells him that, hey, man, you did the right thing by stepping down and being a better person. And just to let you know, the agreement between Paris and Japan has gone through. And it was called the Ross Accords or something like that. The name of the Japanese leader in Ross Accords. It was something like that. But
mm.
his legacy is still momented and memorialized. So even though he's a prisoner now, uh, he's still the hero that he really wanted to end up being, as far as saving the world as a president. But something happened that I didn't think was going to happen, and I had all but kind of wrote it off at that point. But what happens next?
Well, after after we see, like you said, Thunderbolts Ross in the rap now talking to Sam, and we get the clarification, hey, I'm still, a good guy at the end of the day. I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm sure Sam Wilson might have been thinking in the back of his mind, yeah, that's right. And guess what? I'm not Steve Rogers. But after that, we get a nice surprise by Liv Tyler coming back to reprise her role as Betty Ross, his daughter. This is the first time that we have seen her ever in another MCU project since that Incredible Hulk movie in 2008. And before then, we only got a phone call earlier in the movie, the conversation that he had had with his daughter. So I didn't know if we were really going to see her, but by the end, we did. And nice touching moment that they had. I think I told you when that happened. Oh yeah, it's great. It only took her dad going to prison for her to show up, but it was still a nice moment. I couldn't. Here's the thing, I couldn't tell if they had CG'd her a bit, either that or she's just still that elf from Lord of the Rings and doesn't age a bit, which I'm cool with either. But what did you think?
I could not tell to save my life whether they de-aged her a bit or she just looks the same. Uh, Maybe a bit of both. Maybe a bit of both.
Maybe.
But I thought that was a great moment. He said to her, "I'm sorry, honey, we're not going to be able to take a walk in the park next to the cherry blossoms." And she says something, well, spending time with you here talking will be just as good. So it was nice to see that Thunderbolt did get his kind of ending with his daughter, and she came around, and um, Sam is now Cap, and we're in a good place. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let us end it here today, and we will come back with another video talking about the post-credit scenes and some more of what we did and maybe didn't like about this movie. But we've been running for long enough today, so I am King,
And I'm JC3.
and we'll be seeing you again. And like always,
Stay nerdy.
I was waiting for that. All right, y'all. See you later.
See you.